Now, it should be getting pretty evident here, pretty easy to see all around you. What a great moment in human history you are at here. This is the huge crossroads that humanity has arrived at. So, of course, all the old forces of failure and deceit and violence are getting desperate and loud. Because the change is here. And that threat, gets people worked up. And you see it in everything, coming up like, let's see, in America, you get Republican Party filled with white supremacists, racists, the neo-Nazis, and you get them filled with the Christian wacko extremists, right-wing nuts, who want to force their little religion on all of you based on their little book of ignorance. And their little book of ignorance says women are secondary status. Homosexuals can't exist. That kind of wacko, ignorant stuff. And you hear it in Spain. There's actual people who are still clinging to the stupidity and violence of Franco. He was a dictator, look it up. A Nazi. They're walking around with Adolf Hitler and everything. Psychopaths. And all the people who believed in Franco are the same because they are holding to the same agenda. Repression. Segregation. Destruction of your rights. To benefit just that little bit. Well, who? The rich. Essentially. The rich. It's everywhere. It's like in Russia, Putin. Look at Putin. The whole system of Russian government right now is a sham. It's just a mafia. It's a criminal enterprise. It isn't there to benefit the Russian people or anybody else. It's there to benefit what they call the oligarchs, the rich, and all the little cronies who hang on to them. And matched that with the seemingly political thing, you're seeing the religious hysteria of old dark age delusions fading. Because all of you have come into the 21st century of evolved intelligence. You know there never was God. It was just a fabrication made up by people from ignorance 2,000 years ago and all that. Because they didn't know what was a flood. What was a volcano? What is disease? What was there always there? So they just said, well, there's a God. There's a God. Oh yeah, and they have a plan. Oh yeah, boy, they got, yep, oh geez. It's just to try and calm everybody down here. Try to give an excuse. They made up fantasy lands, like if you don't follow their requirements, then you're going to suffer. And you're going to suffer after you die. Now, how convenient is that? It's obviously a fraud. Obviously, come on. It was just made up to scare people. Because nobody knows about death. Death. What's death? So they tell them, oh, death, if you don't do what we say, oh, buddy, you're going to suffer after death. See, it works. They're ignorant people. They're grossly, think of just for the centuries and centuries, the most of the people were illiterate. And so they didn't have any access to information like you do now at all. Astounding amount of information that you have today in the 21st century. And with that scientific research that actually looks and studies and analyzes and repeats and analyzes and studies and repeats, you know a lot more of how things operate. And it wipes out the myth. It wipes out the delusion thing of the God. And you see to reality. And reality, folks, by that is profound. That's the profound reality. You know, the mythic thing is just like a scaredy cat thing to be scared about. Think, oh boy. But actually, intuition, insight, capacities, most of you know, humans have a lot of this. It just comes with your being human in your natural state. But when you've been indoctrinated and deluded by advertising and your parents who didn't know anything and your religion who doesn't know anything and military indoctrination and all this crap, well, you don't get it. It's been shut away. You're awed by simple things that are just reality. Reality is profound. Reality is profound. Now look at the world around you and within you. How do you rectify and understand anything? It's from within you. You're living the movie of your life. You're the star every second. And that reality doesn't change whether you're asleep or walking around the daylight, right? Doesn't change. It's consistent. It goes on. And as you know from seeing, friends of yours, loved ones of yours who have died, it continues. Even though they drop the body and are no longer there, it continues. Just as it will for you when you drop the body. And on top of that, you know, it's guaranteed, at some point, you will also know death. Guaranteed. So doesn't it behoove you to once again look in there and really try and get kind of a scientific approach in there and see, well, what the hell's going on when we die? What do we know? Instead of just, it's mythic. Oh boy, it's mystery. Don't bother checking. Don't put it, it's just a mystery, boy. Ooh, gosh, it's just scary, and oh gosh, or it's just See, that's all they relied on back then. And you have outgrown all of that. But by seeing clearly in your 21st century mind, you are also clearly seeing economic crisis, environmental trouble, climate change, caused by human ignorance of their economics. And you're seeing, by the pretty obvious examples, all this religious stuff, Dark Age stuff, is also nothing but trouble, problematic. Because all those myths they keep generating and holding on to from that fairyland back there, they're still trying to use that to justify repression, segregation, destruction of your rights, your freedoms, and put it in terms of myth, fantasy. Women are secondary status because of our myth from our creation myth and our little book. And from our little book, that it also says homosexuals don't have equal rights. And people who aren't part of the same religion, oh boy, they don't get it either. That's what their stupid little books still cling to. Well, you're not part of that anymore. You, in the 21st century mind, have outgrown that in kind of a natural evolution, as well as the actual access to scientific research that has actually looked, studied, and analyzed. I mean, you got plenty of examples down through history of, religion squeezing and trying to control and stop science, an investigation of things as they are. Remember the classics like Galileo, who went out and actually looked and studied, analyzed, repeated, studied, analyzed, published his findings, and the Catholic Church wanted to kill him. Like the Catholic Church had done hundreds and maybe thousands of others. Repression. That's what they rely on. So how are these old age religions, and it doesn't matter which one they are. Doesn't matter if it's Christianity or Judaism or Islam or Hindu. They all got them. And they all expect you to kind of give some tacit agreement to the myth, to the delusions. And you're not there anymore. And those guys can't upgrade to the 21st century because they rely on those myths. They'd have to throw out all those myths. And this spills over. Your clarity gets that, and your clarity spills over, of course, into economics. And you see that the whole economics system of profit at any price. Just look at any economics currently, Economics 101. What's the basis? The bottom line. What's the measure of success? Profit. Did you make a profit? And as you've seen through history countless times into our current, here we are. When that's all your measure, well, there's no ethics. There's no justice. There's no morality. There's no humanity. All it is profit. Poison the earth. Poison the oceans. Poison your food. Make it cheap. Make it cheap so you make a profit. Well, that's lunatic stuff. That's insanity. You've put that economic system, as you see, has put the whole planet that keeps us all alive. That economics has put the whole planet at risk. Now we should be able to say that it seems down through history there has been no other species so stupid that they've just managed, like humans have, to destroy the whole planet. Poison the air, poison the water, leave toxic residues on your food, poisons and pesticides, and just justify everything and say, oh, it's profit. Yeah, you made a profit. Well, that's insane. So, of course, as you're looking around, 21st century people are saying, well, in America, you can quite clearly see that the people who are that old age religious foolishness and that clinging to that economics disaster are Republicans. Everything Republican is racism, white supremacy, Nazis, as well as economic disaster of the rich, of corporate poison and pollution of you. That's insane. That's obvious stuff. Now currently in this, this is recorded at 2020, there still isn't a political candidate, except maybe me, who's out saying, pointing this type of facts out of how dramatic and how important of a position in history that we have come to, the crossroads. There is the choice and there is the information to change direction, and in changing direction economically to everything that is environmentally sustainable, recycling, get rid of all our trash buildup, solving problems, like that. All that's new economics. And it's also economics that benefits the whole planet for once, not just us little rich, And there is the religion side of it that gets you away from all the dark age religious crap and fraud, that gets you to where you are intellectually now, your 21st century intelligence of reality, not myth. You don't need any creation myth. Throw that all away. The basics of 21st century religion is equal rights for you. And the understanding in religion and economics that business enterprise is business enterprise. It's not a human being. It does not get human rights. It's a business enterprise. And if a business enterprise doesn't adhere to environmental sanity, that business is out of business, closed down. Because you are more important than profit. You. It's your air. It's your water. First. And business does what you tell them to provide you, and whatever they do, okay. But it has to be environmentally sound, business practice that doesn't injure your air and your water. And when it comes to food, it's still your food, first, it's your food first. And then businesses have to, agriculture business, farmers, they all have to do it to advantage of you. They can't be dumping food in your grocery stores that's still got residues of pesticides and whatnot on it, and you're supposed to take it home and clean up their mess. Or feed it to your kids. Insanity. Feed your kids poison. That's insane. That's insane. You're at the crossroads. You have big human crossroads. And you see that all these centuries and centuries and centuries of lies and deceit, just corruption and deceit and perversion that has been both religion and economics is crashing. It's crashing. It's losing its value. It's seen clearly in your 21st century reality mind. You see it clearly. It's a fraud. It's a disaster for you. And you're seeing clearly that you are more important than profit. And from that comes economics, budget, legislation, equal rights, health care. You all get health care because you all need it. It's a human reality, not a business profit. You get health care. That becomes your budgetary priorities. And in religion it becomes reality, not myth. The profundity of reality is here, folks. 21st century crossroads has arrived today. You are more important than profit.